Greetings, Jesse Vaughn Sr., stationary air scientist here. How you folks doing? I want to take this opportunity to talk about the second law of thermodynamics. Nature abhors a vacuum. Nature abhors a vacuum. What does that mean? That means you will never find a vacuum in nature where there's not a physical barrier. Alright? Anytime you have a vacuum, there has to be some kind of a container that is either holding the vacuum or holding the atmosphere. Either way, you can't have one next to the other without a physical barrier, without some kind of container. That's why it's a law, because it's never happened. You've never one time been able to have a vacuum next to a lower pressure system without the vacuum sucking the low pressure system up, and vice versa. If you had a can of propane and you popped a hole in it, what would happen? All the propane would rush out of it into the atmosphere, because the atmosphere is a higher pressure system, so it's the vacuum. So all the propane is going to and it will cease to be, and the can will be empty. Well, it's the same thing with an atmosphere that's supposed to be next to the vacuum of space. Where's your physical barrier? Where's your physical barrier? Where's your container? There would have to be one. Otherwise, the high pressure vacuum of space would suck up the lower pressure system of our atmosphere, and it would cease to be. That's what the second law of thermodynamics tells you, that nature abhors a vacuum. So that right there just blows all kinds of holes in space theory, at least the vacuum of space theory. Mind you, theory is the operative word here. Like gravity, theory. Big Bang, theory. Evolution, theory. And I don't give a damn if you stick scientific in front of the word theory. It's still just a theory. You can't polish a turd. So when they say, oh, it's a scientific theory, there's lots of corroborating. No, there's not. Corroborating, schmoraborating. There's supposed to be empirical evidence, and there's none. If there was any, it would not be a theory, not even a scientific theory. It would be a fact. It would be an exact science. See, the scientific method requires that you have something that is repeatable, recordable, and demonstrable. If you can't meet those three requirements, then it's not scientific. And if you can't meet those three requirements and get the same results over and over again, then it's not an exact science. But see, the thing about science is you're not supposed to try and fabricate evidence to support your own theory. You're supposed to disprove your own theory. You're supposed to try your hardest to disprove your own theory. And science these days is just willy-nilly, by the seat of their pants, people just making stuff up as they go along. There's not even any written rules to the heliocentric model anymore. It's just like whatever they start babbling about, oh, then it must be true. It's not. It's not at all. Not to mention this vacuum of space. What a vacuum is a system that is void of all atmosphere, of all air, movement, everything. That means that not only would you not be able to combust a chemical rocket in the vacuum of space, let's just say you can magically do that, you would have no thrust in the vacuum of space. You can make you a little vacuum chamber right here on Earth, little glass vacuum chamber, hook a vacuum pump to it. Now you can place you a little tiny fan and a feather hanging from a string in front of that fan, alright? And you can turn that fan on and you'll see that feather start to blow around. Then you pull your vacuum on that chamber. Pull a 29-inch vacuum. That's 500 microns. It's roughly about 45 minutes with a vacuum pump. Turn that fan on, and that feather doesn't move one bit, not even a little bit, because there's no thrust in a vacuum. So even if you could magically combust your chemical rockets in the vacuum of space, you would not have any thrust. You would go nowhere. No thrust. No combustion, no thrust. That's too 2 strikes down for NASA, and then every other person that says that they're going out into space. They say that they can't go past low Earth orbit, is what NASA says. So we can't go past low Earth orbit, and that's what they're trying to do right now is stay in low Earth orbit to do scientific tests to make a shuttle that will meet requirements to get them further out into space, past the Van Allen belts, through the radiation, blah 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 blah. So if they're in low Earth orbit, why are they pretending to be floating? Because they would still be bound by their magical theoretical gravitational sauce known as gravity if they were in lower Earth orbit. So they wouldn't be floating around any damn way. But you can see them floating around on their little silly ass harnesses and their 0 degree drops that they take a plane, a couple miles up in the sky, and then they drop straight down to the ground, rocket speed, and it causes everybody in the back to start floating around. Whee, we're floating, we're in space. Well, they do that a couple of times and they loop it all together and say, here, there's 4 minutes of us in space. It's not so. It's not so at all. I've seen this one clip of this NASA cat. He's trying to show you how they use their little restroom there on the space station, and he's supposed to be he's floating. He's floating. Obviously wearing a harness, but he reaches over to turn the knob of this little. I guess it was a sink or something, and the top of it fell off. The screw thing of it fell off, and you can visibly see it and audibly hear it fall and hit the ground while this asshole is still acting like he's floating. This little tiny screw thing fell off and hit the ground. Plink! And he just kind of looked at the camera, and that was it. They didn't even cut it out, though. It's really ridiculous. I mean, they're just kind of like rubbing your nose in it, And people say, why would they do that? Why? Well, let's talk about $56 million a day at $56 billion a year. Why? That's a pretty damn good incentive just right off the bat. But that's not even the major why. That's not, control. It's obviously working. They've got plenty of people bamboozled and fooled by it. So, if it works, keep doing it. That's what they're doing. I figure every few years they give you a little fake rocket blast that goes off over into the ocean and show you a couple CGI exoplanets that don't exist, and everything's hunky-dory. Everybody believes in their space. Well, there's no outer space. It's nothing but water out there, just like the Bible says. There's a dome over us, a crystalline dome, the firmament. They say they can't go past the Van Allen belts because it's dangerous radiation that emits from our magnetic metal core. Our magnetic molten metal core puts off a radiation belt that travels 25,000 miles out around the Earth, out into space. Now, mind you, the idea of liquid magnetic molten metal is completely asinine because metal and magnets alike both lose all magnetic properties when you heat them up glowing red hot. Don't even have to get them to molten, which would be liquid. Molten, but you don't even have to do that. You get it glowing red hot, and neither one of them is magnetic anymore. So the idea of a liquid magnetic molten metal core emitting a magnetic radiation belt around the Earth is bullshit. It's bullshit. And they say that that's what they can't go into space because of the Van Allen belts, even though they went through them from 69 to 72 because they hadn't been discovered yet. You ask Alan Bean, and he said, well, they hadn't been discovered yet, so we went right on through them. That's just some retarded shit right there, dude. Retarded. And you got Don Pettit. I call him the Tit. He's the only NASA astronaut that actually really believes that he went to space because he's fucking retarded. Says, I'd go back to the moon in a nanosecond, but unfortunately we don't have that technology anymore. We had it, but we destroyed it, and it's a painful process building it back. Kind of bull. This is also the astronaut who him and another astronaut were reading letters from children, I guess, asking questions about space. And these two tits, now mind you, astronauts are supposed to be the cream of the crop, handpicked. They had to submit their applications several times to get picked. they're supposed to be really, really smart, blah, 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 blah. These two boobs, the first one reads the letter first. He says, can you see the stars whilst in space, is what he said. He's looking at the word whilst, and it doesn't even compute. He's like, whilst in space? And he hands the letter off to Don Pettit, and he's looking at it, he says, dude, can you see the stars whilst in space? Oh, yeah. These two idiots had never seen the word whilst. Never in all their studies of academia, in all their crash courses of becoming the top of their class to become an astronaut, they never encountered the word whilst. That just blows my friggin' mind. These two boobs don't know their ass from a hole in the ground. Bottom line. I mean, these people are idiots. They're charlatans. They're liars. I mean, Einstein was an idiot. His mathematics professor said he was a bumbling fool who was borderline retarded in the field of mathematics. And they want you to believe that his mathematics are what ruled the Manhattan Project, and that his theory of relativity and his mathematics are what caused them to be able to split the atom and cause nuclear explosions, which is another one of their hoaxes. You know? Nuclear weapons platform is completely bumped, dude. I don't know, there's just a lot of stuff that just, you know, I don't want to overwhelm myself or my viewers if they're not already hip to some of this stuff, but I cannot stress to you that everything that is presented to us, especially through media, through television sets, through publications, all of it, it's completely satanic and completely just false crap. And I mean, yeah, I have people that are arguing with me on my channel about whether or not I'm qualified to even say the things that I'm saying. What does it matter? You have children and adults alike that post videos every day about space and everything else, and they're not qualified, but everybody's, oh, that's such a nice video, no. And it's just a bunch of brainwashed bullshit. They're just revamping shit that they've been fed since they walked into a classroom at 5 years old. Hey, look, what's the first thing you see when you walk into a classroom? A spinning round ball they call your home. You don't even know how to spell your name, really. But they're telling you live on this round ball. That seemed like a really inappropriate and highly suspicious time to introduce the globe, which, mind you, if you turn that globe over, every globe ever made has got a sticker underneath the little wood panel that it sits on, and that sticker says, not for educational purposes, for decorative purposes only. Because you can't navigate with the globe. You can't do anything with the globe. Of course, globe is about the only time you'll ever actually find any curvature to the Earth, because on a small scale and a grand scale, there is no detectable curvature of the Earth. At 3 miles, there should be 6 feet of curvature. I'm not 6 feet tall. You shouldn't be able to see me, but I guarantee you at 3 miles, you can see me. I've already done this experiment several times with several friends. We put our backs together. I walk a mile and a half one way. They walk a mile and a half the other way. They turn around. They look at me. My head should be under 2 inches of curvature. You shouldn't be able to see me at all. But they can see me from head to foot. That's a small scale. On a grand scale, you know, you got pilots that can see the Hawaiian Islands from California when they get out, when they leave LAX, they get out of the city, out of the smog, they hit up on the Pacific coast, they can see the Hawaiian Islands dotted up some 300 miles up the coast. Those islands would be on the other side of that ball. You would not be able to see them from California. You would not be able to see the Chicago city skyline from Grand Union State Park with 62 miles of Lake Michigan in between them. The tallest building should be under 600 feet of curvature, but you can see the entire thing from top to bottom. People say, oh, it's inversion, it's a mirage. Superior mirages come in upside down. Not hearing it. They come in upside down and they come in wavy, and I'm just not buying that. That's not what that is. That is the Chicago city skyline that you're seeing. It's not refraction. It's not a mirage. Superior mirages come in upside down because there's no corrective lens to correct the inversion that happens from the atmosphere. I mean, when you only have one lens, everything's going to be upside down. So you got to have another lens to correct it. Well, there is no another lens in the atmospheric density of well, what is it called? The atmospheric deck of opacity, something to that effect. Light's another thing. I mean, they want you to believe that there's planets out there, that our sun, 93 million miles that way, is shining its light all the way out 100 million miles out to Mars and Jupiter and Venus, and thus illuminating them and shining that light all the way back here 100 million miles to Earth so we can see it. That's impossible. The inverse square law of light says that could never happen. Ever. No matter how powerful and how big that light source is, it's not happening. Not to mention you have Venus, the transit of Venus. All right, I had some idiot was telling me, Tony, you have to have orbits of the sun for transit to Venus. Explain to me, how can they calculate the next transit of Venus? Well, if it was a heliocentric model was true, you would not be able to calculate anything. Everything would be different every time you looked up at the sky. So the idea of being able to predict anything to an accuracy on a heliocentric model is stupid. Because that model says we're all hurtling through space at 1 million miles an hour in several different directions that can't be detected. It's funny. But Venus, its transit, doesn't exist. Because I know just about every day of the year, provided it's clear, I can walk out my mother's back door and look off over the trees right when the sun's coming, right before the sun starts to come up, and you can see Venus, the morning star. That's why they call it the morning star, because it comes up right before the sun comes up. Well, the thing about it is with the transit of Venus and its orbits around the sun, as they say that it does, that would put Venus on the other side of the sun 200 days out of the year. But you can walk out my mom's back porch and see Venus, provided it's clear, every day of the year. So Venus does not transit, it does not orbit the sun. It's preposterous. It's in the same spot every night, every morning, right before the sun comes up. And that was it. It's silly. It's silliness, man. I mean, this is observable reality that people will argue with you tooth and nail over, and have no idea what the hell they're talking about. Just be swimming around the Kool-Aid and not know the flavor. I hope these videos that I make, and I hope this content that I make and what I present to everybody is efficient enough to put a spark in some people's butts to actually investigate what I'm saying. Don't investigate me. I'll tell you everything you need to know about me. I'm a 2-time loser. I've been to prison. I used to be a member of a gang. All that dumb shit. But I paid the price with years of my life for what I've done. I can't take it back. All I can do is make sure that it never happens again. I mean, that person is dead anyways. The person that did that is dead. You know, I was young. I'm stupid. No excuse, but still. I'm just trying to really do my part to let people know that I really care about them, you know? No bullshitting. I just really want everybody to know the truth. Everybody deserves to know the truth. So, if there's anything that I can help you with, always hit me up in the comments. Let me know what's going on. Shalom.